Hey, so what does it mean to fear the Lord? John Piper, help us. So we hear this all the time, the fear of the Lord. But what does that actually mean? Well, in this video, we're going to unpack exactly what that means, and we're going to lean on a little John Piper commentary to help us. Hey, Jim Schultz here for F Cubed and livefcubed.com. And as you guys already know, my two areas of professional interest are fitness and finance. But you know, I love spreading around those Jesus sprinkles, man, with that third F, faith. And that's what we're gonna do today. So if this is your first time here and any one of those three F's speaks to you, please consider subscribing. Okay, so right out of the gates here, you may have heard before that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom. So it certainly sounds pretty important. Well, more on that in a minute, but first, let's kind of just wrap our heads around what the fear of God means in a general sense. And here's where we're going to lean on my boy John Piper from Desiring God to help us out. Well, JP kind of breaks it down into some Old Testament fear and some New Testament fear. In the Old Testament, we can turn to Isaiah 66:2. This is the one to whom I will look, he who is humble and contrite in spirit and trembles at my word. Well, Piper helps us break this down even further by saying fearing is corresponding with humility and lowliness and sensitivity of heart. The sheer majesty of God, as well as the holiness and justice and power and wrath of God, cannot be approached in a cavalier spirit. Now, if we flip to the New Testament, we can actually look at Philippians 2, verses 12 and 13. Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you. Now, that's super interesting because that is very different from what we saw in the Old Testament. And if we actually look at the John Piper commentary, he actually comments, we should fear in the sense that we seek refuge from God away from God's terrible wrath. God's grace in Christ is the refuge from God's wrath outside Christ. There is terror outside of Christ, and there is a different kind of trembling inside of Christ. So that's it. That's the fear of God, Old Testament style and New Testament style. And let's wrap this whole thing up the only way we know how, with a little Q&A action. Question number 1, so why should I fear God? Well, it's basically respect and awe of his power, hashtag Old Testament, or it's incredible thanksgiving for the protection from God's wrath that can only be found in Christ, hashtag New Testament. Question number 2, I've never heard of this John Piper guy. Is he worth a Google? Is he worth a Google? Within 30 seconds of one of his sermons, he's going to have you so on fire for Christ that you're going to have a small group started before the night is over.
The words that I have spoken to you are spirit and life.
And question number 3, you said that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom. Jim, I've been checking out your stuff, man. I think you kind of missed the mark on this whole wisdom thing. What's up with that? That is actually true. Wisdom is not one of my spiritual gifts, but neither is mercy. So you better check yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Come on,
hey guys, I appreciate you guys as always, man. Hit me with that like, share, subscribe. You would be my all-time favorite. Coming up next, we're gonna stick with the biblical terms. We're gonna stick with the biblical terms and meanings. And here comes, what does meek mean in the Bible?